This is On Imagination. And welcome to the Ethical Asshole. I am your host, the Salty Bitch. We're going to talk today about bigotry. So I realized today that I am in a very unusual position where I grew up on the inside of a bigot community, being raised, bred, surrounded by bigots my whole life. And now I'm on the outside of the bigot community and I'm watching the way the rest of the world works. And I'm going, what are you guys talking about? And I realized it took me a very, very long time, like 4 years, to process, because I've been out of that community for almost 5 years now, almost 4.5 years now. And it took me a long time to figure out the language on the outside of the bigot community to figure out what exactly everyone's talking about. And one of the things I heard a lot about was white privilege. And that was a really weird word for me because when you grow up in a white community surrounded by bigots, you don't understand what white privilege is. So it took me a very long time to translate the language, figure out what everyone was talking about, and get the hang of everything. The first thing I had to learn was the bigot language is literally embedded in my language, in my vernacular when I was growing up. And it's not until I was able to get out of it in 2020 that I finally started to hear it, because I literally worked with an entire community of Colombians. And then I lived with Puerto Ricans for a year. And then all of my best friends were Black. And I was able to finally unlearn, I hate the word, unlearn the bigot language. They were phenomenal in teaching me how to speak. And I still have a lot to learn. But there was a difference between my language and my ethics. This is really, really, really important because my ethics were not at all bigoted, but the language I was using was, because it's all I had heard my entire life. So the first thing I had to do is realize this, but I couldn't even get to that point until I got out of the community. So when I came to New York City, I lived about a year toggling between the bigot land and New York City. And it got to a point after only about 2 months where I started to see it. I started to hear it. And then I had to learn it. I had to learn the healthy language, the unbigot language, the language that everyone else in the world is using. And then I had to translate it. And there were several words that were being used that I couldn't understand it. So today I finally reverse engineered white privilege, and now I understand it. The reason why I couldn't understand white privilege is because I'm a girl. You see, only white adult males get white privilege in a bigot community. Girls do not. Girls are less than dogs. And the dog is treated much better than you because they're man's best friend. So the dog got white privilege. I did not. And so when I was outside, I had a lot of Black men and Latinos telling me that I had white privilege. And I went, fuck you, no, I don't. The dog got white privilege. I did not. So it took me a while to figure out the language so that I could finally translate it. And today is the day I can finally translate it. White privilege is manners. It's what everyone else calls human decency. That's it. It's just human decency and basic respect for people. It's manners. And the rest of the world uses manners on everybody wherever they go, because that's human decency. Bigots don't do that. Bigots have something called a hierarchical system, and everything is measured to the hierarchical system. They live off of something that I like to call the Bigot Bible. And the Bigot Bible is literally a metric and a value system to determine your market value. And once they decide your market value, it puts it in relativity to where you belong in relativity to them in that hierarchy system. As I said, I'm a white woman, so I'm all the way down at the bottom, just underneath the dog. Black and Latino people would be underneath me. But believe me, we're all underneath the dog. So once I started to understand this, well, I'm here to give you all their dirt so you can understand the way their puny little minds think. One of my favorite shows growing up is called All in the Family. I love Archie Bunker. The reason why I love Archie Bunker is because it really shows bigots how disgusting they are. And that was the purpose of the show, was to show the world this is a bigot and look at how stupid they are. Fun fact, bigots don't like the show. I know because not a single man inside my entire bigot community enjoyed that show. They fucking hated Archie Bunker. The only people who didn't hate Archie Bunker were the non-bigots. Now, what people think is called racism isn't actually racism. It's bigotry. Women don't actually experience misogyny from a bigot. They're experiencing bigotry. But after Archie Bunker aired in the 1950s or 1960s, bigots hated the show so much that they literally removed the word bigot from our culture. Now, because it's a bigot world and a bunch of bigots run our world, they banned the word. Oh, the word bigot was not allowed to be used in the community. If you said the word bigot, they would literally scream and puff out their chest and say, "I'm not Archie Bunker." And they informed us to not say the word, and they had a few choice words for us. So even inside the community, the word got cleansed. And then when I got outside of the bigot community, I realized no one was using the word. And instead, they're using words like misogynistic, chauvinistic, and racism. These are actually very inaccurate. What you're experiencing is bigotry. I like to use another word called sophistication. That is actually just not a bigot. So if you're sophisticated, you're not a bigot. That bottom line, that's it. Because sophisticated means worldly. It means having a wider point of view, or it implies that actually. It means that you're actually educated in culture and diversity and style. It means you're educated. A bigot isn't. So I realized that as a result, these people have been exposed to bigotry, and because they're not inside a bigot community, they don't understand what's going on. So here is the mindset of a bigot. All bigots are white males. All white men are not bigots. This is really, really important because there are a lot of really good men and a lot of really good white men who are not at all bigots. There is a very big difference between speaking like a bigot because you were raised by those assholes versus not ethically being like them. And unfortunately, it's very hard for a white, not bigot, to find someone to teach them. This is a really, really difficult challenge. I spent about a year looking for other people to teach me just so I could learn a cleaner, better, healthier language. It took me a lot of work. When you decide, if you are white, not to be a bigot, you have to, you're pretty much a nomad after that. You are rejected by that community, and then you roam the world looking for something. We usually gravitate toward the LGBTQ community because they're not bigots. The LGBTQIA is pretty much the white community that has accepted us. And that is really what an LGBTQIA community is they're not the bigots. So we have found shelter among them in that community, which has been fantastic because it has allowed us to learn the language, learn a healthier language. Because everything revolves around the hierarchy, the difference between a human being who's decent and a bigot is the bigot will use manners as weapons. So this is how their brains function. They think that manners and the golden rule of reciprocity, that thing that we learned in school, they believed that the golden rule is only for bigots. That if you're not a bigot, you don't get the golden rule. And they hold everybody to this expectation and standard that you're not worthy enough to get their manners, and you are expected to give them your manners. That's what they call respect, in proportion to how little value you have. So everything is measured on that hierarchy. And if you have low hierarchy, then you require more manners to compensate for your lack of worth. That's according to their bullshit minds. If you are peer or equal to them, then you don't require manners. So they have literally turned manners into currency. That is what you've been subjected to. In turn, they believe that because they're high up in that hierarchy, according to their minds, that you now owe them a debt that you are to pay to them in manners, but they do not owe you. You see how they've literally turned manners and humanity into currency. This is why they say, you'll speak to me in respect. Depending upon where you are in the hierarchy, there is no amount of respect that will ever make up for how many manners you might use. But at the end of the day, reciprocity does not exist with them. You could be very polite to them, but you're not getting their manners unless you are equal to them. That's why I was treated like a dog. If you oppose their bigot concept, then you are devalued and put down as low to whoever you support. I support pretty much all diversity, the world, Latino, Black community. Therefore, I am, according to them, as filthy as them. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm in great company. I am also all for, absolutely love that LGBTQIA community, which puts me, according to them, on their level. Again, this is a huge compliment for me because these are some great people. So you can start to see how they measure everybody. Now, as I said, I grew up in the community, so I know this bullshit. But everybody on the outside doesn't get it. They don't understand what's going on. They think all white men are trash or racist white men are trash, and they're not understanding it. What you're really dealing with is just a bigot. It's just bigotry. You are not subjected to racism. Believe me, you are subjected to bigotry. Women are not subjected to misogyny. Believe me, you're not. You are being subjected to bigotry. And that's the word they really hate because it's the right word for them. If you were subjected to actual misogyny, then all men of all races always would treat you like shit. That's misogyny. Likewise, if it was racism, then all people not of your color would always treat you like shit. That's racism. But it's not. It's just the bigots. Unfortunately, the bigots rule the world. So we're seeing a lot of bigotry. That's what's going on. Once you understand their currency of manners and how they have bastardized the golden rule, it really puts a lot in perspective for you, and it allows you to really understand what it is you're actually dealing with. You're dealing with bigots. What I don't understand, and this is something that I learned probably very quickly because I was inside of the community, is don't expect anything from them. Really, do not expect anything from them. Not even manners, because that's their currency. So I knew this. I always knew my grandfather was a bigot. My father's a bigot. Everybody in my family, about half of my family is a bigot. It's funny because half of my family actually opposed the bigotry. So I have half a family that's bigots and the other half that moved out and literally married Latino, Black. And so we went the other way. We have a few LGBTQIA. So we're divided. We are a family divided. And the bigot side of our family, I've removed, and I hang with the other side. Well, yeah, I hang with the other side. So we have a divided family. And that was a whole nother thing that we got to witness. It was very weird. And then if you bring somebody into the house, you don't, because you know they're going to be slandered and abused. So yeah, that was something that I had to learn. That's something we all had to learn the hard way, because we did not know that they were bigots until we got out. and we started to hang out with other cultures, and we started to realize, oh, I grew up in a white supremacist town. See, white supremacists don't look like white supremacists when you're on the inside. In fact, fun fact, this is fun. I went back and I told them, you're a white supremacist, right? No, I'm not. You're racist and you're a bigot, right? And they are in absolute denial. They are copying, mimicking, acting like Archie Bunker, and they are in complete denial that they're bigots. That's how uneducated they are. So lower your standards and your expectations of them. And what I say to people, and this is the best thing, is literally put them in a little space of the world closed off from the rest of the world, because that is exactly where their own closed-mindedness has put them. And that's really where they need to be. They're closed-minded and they need to just stay closed off for their closed-mindedness, which means do not give them any value because they're bigots. This is literally what they've been trained for. This is what they're groomed for at 4 to 8 years old. We actually had classes in the church that taught us how to be like this. I was one of those persons that argued it, but yeah, that's a whole nother concept. That being said, what I see from a lot of people is they expect the bigots to not be bigots. They expect a lot more out of the bigots. And here's the problem. You're a sophisticated person and you're holding everybody to a standard of sophistication, which is expected. It's normal. We're all humans and we're decent. And you don't know how to process an indecent human being. You don't understand how to process a bigot. And you're going to get to a point, and this is truly the only way to deal with this. You reach a certain mindset where you realize, oh, they poo-poo human decency. They literally throw away human decency. They live without ethics and they literally discard humanity. And some of us are so humane and so sophisticated that we actually don't understand this. And that's the conflict inside of us, is we're trying to make sense of something that's insane. And the reason why we're not able to make sense of something that's insane is because it's insane. They're bigots. Research it. Take a look at the word. And I really do strongly recommend you watch the show All in the Family to study the mindset of a bigot. And All in the Family portrays it absolutely spot on. That is fucking accurate, which is why they couldn't watch the show, is because it was like watching a mirror, which is why the bigots fucking hate the show. So I do strongly recommend you watch a few episodes of Archie Bunker. Watch the season finale, or the series finale. That's a real kick in the teeth. It was a powerful show because it was showing America. It mocked the bigot. And that is exactly what we need right now, is this word restored to our culture, because it was strategically removed by the bigot so we couldn't disarm, or so we couldn't arm ourselves against their bigotry. And don't think in terms of racist, because then you take a bigot issue and you make it a racist issue. Women, don't turn it into misogyny, because you're taking a bigot issue and you're turning it into a gender war. It's not a gender war you're dealing with. You're dealing with fucking bigots. Completely different concept. I hope this helps. Thank you. And may the kindest of words always find you.